Nadia, how are you doing today?
Hey Victoria, I'm fine, really, really well. Thank you for inviting me to talk about this.
I'm very excited about this because winter is here and Christmas is just around the corner. And you have a pretty big selection of holiday and winter music in your store. So I want to talk to you about that. Give us an overview of what you have for winter music.
I just found out while preparing for this interview, actually, my winter repertoire is like two-thirds songs that you can sing to the harp, and one-third solo harp music, also a duo. And so the most part is actually from an album that I did many years ago called Winter Tales. And it's an album of Christmas music, winter music. Most of it is Celtic, some Renaissance, Veni, Veni, Emmanuel, Gaudete. But there's also quite a bit from Wales, from England, from Ireland. So more known pieces like In Praise of Christmas, To Drive the Cold Winter Away, The First Noel is on there, Pleased to See the King, the Angel Gabriel.
All hail to the days that married my praise, the nod of the race of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights, as well for the poor as the
But I was also at the time when I was putting together the music for the album, looking for some lesser known tunes, lesser known songs. Like I found a very beautiful one from England, Watchmen Tell Us of the Night. And yeah, Bring a Torch at Jeanette, Isabella is, yeah, today it's more known than when I put the album together. So it's a selection of winter music. Some are well known, some are not so well known.
And it's a good mix because the ones that we know potentially could be a good piece for us to start because we already know the tune, and then the ones that we don't know, it will be a great opportunity for us to hear them and learn about them. So definitely check
Mhm.
out the Winter Tales album if you have not listened to it. It's available on all your streaming platforms, and I believe you might even still have the CD for sale on your website, the last I checked.
I do, yes. Even though it was really, I think it was published in 2006 or something. So it's really not very recent. It's still available as physical copy. I'm very happy about that because some CDs that I made are now out of print, but this one is still, yeah, it's people like to give it for Christmas, and but of course it's also on Spotify and on the streaming platforms, Apple Music and stuff like that.
Definitely. Well, let's start by talking about harp and voice. Tell us about your harp and voice arrangement. What is your general approach, and what can we expect when we get a sheet music from you that is arranged for harp and voice?
Oh, very interesting question. Yeah. So what you can expect, yeah, I think something that is beyond just a singing voice and a broken chord. Because I like to fit harp and voice together so that the harp enhances what the voice has to say. When I do arrangements, I always look at the lyrics first. I sing the music a lot before I even play one tone on the harp, because I want to get a feel for the melody and how I want to sing it, what is in the melody and how it can be sung, what tempo, what range. And then when I know what I want to express with the song, then I start looking for what can be played on the harp that enhances the overall expression of the song. And coming from a classical singing education, I was very much inspired by classical lied, the Brahms, Schubert, Schumann, where every accompaniment, mostly on the piano, with a song is very different from each other. So and always the accompaniment of the instrument always tells a story itself. So what you can expect is almost like the harp singing a second voice to the singing voice. So it's more like, I mean, not always, I don't want to exaggerate or anything, but sometimes that the harp sings a duet with a singing voice. Like one song, would you like me to demonstrate?
Yes, I would love to.
I happen to have a harp here. Yeah, it's this one is called Bring a Torch, Jeanette, Isabella. It's some Provence carol and a very joyful tune. So I thought where a father says to his daughters, take a torch and tell the folk of the village that Jesus is born. And so I always thought, okay, there's many people going to find out what has happened, the miracle of that night. So I thought, okay, there has to be more than one voice, of course, because they're all talking together. So the melody is joyful itself, but then I'm also adding like a melody to in the harp. So Jeanette, Isabella, bring a touch, come swiftly and run. Bring a touch, Jeanette, Isabella, bring a touch, come swiftly and run. And already here you can see, so it's not just me singing and the harp going. Like that, but I want the harp to go so to play something that is kind of a counter melody. And then in the B part, I go for even more counter melody or more. And then together, it sounds like this. Christ is born to the folk of the village, Jesus is sleeping in his cradle. Ah, beautiful is the mother, ah, beautiful is the son. So you always have the voice melody, and then something going on in the harp as well. So that when you first listen to it, maybe you concentrate on the singing melody, but then, I mean, now from the perspective of a listener, but then maybe the second time you hear, oh, there's something else going on. The harp is also singing. And then when you listen to it for the third time, maybe, you see, oh, they're in contact. They're in a dialogue. They are talking to each other. So this is kind of my approach to finding arrangements are maybe more interesting or more, there's a lot of stuff happening in them. That's what I do.
Yeah, and it certainly sounds very impressive. Like even just the voice and the harp on its own, it sounds very full and very complete, which is very lovely.
Thank you so much. Maybe that's because I do a lot of solo concerts, and I want that nothing is missing. You know, it's not like, okay, another song, yeah, nice. So I always want to surprise also the ear of the listener that there's something new happening, a new melody or a different register on the harp. That's also what I like to do, like switch registers, go from a high accompaniment to a low. So there's always this moment of surprise.
I love that. So, from a perspective of someone who's trying to learn it, how do we approach it?
Mhm.
Should we be practicing the accompaniment and the voice separately and try to put it together, or would you recommend something different? What are some strategies you can share with us?
Yeah. First of all, don't start with this one. So this was really kind of yeah, it is advanced. So to start, I would definitely recommend practicing harp and voice separately. Otherwise, you strain the voice very much when you try to play and sing at the same time, and you're not really at ease with the harp yet. You can really hurt yourself in the voice area because um, you kind of drag the voice along, and it's really not healthy. So try to get a nice solid foundation for the harp. Um, what I also like to tell my students at workshops is that you practice the accompaniment and then you create some spare attention that you can then afterwards use for the voice. One of the pieces that would be easily doable, I think, for still for this Christmas, is a song called "To Drive the Cold Winter Away." It's a bit slower, and it has a pattern that is repeated, so you don't have to concentrate on counter melodies and stuff like that all the time. So uh, you have this pattern of an octave and a fifth, then ninth, third, and so this is your basic chord that you would play, and then alternate a little bit. I mean, you can read that in the sheet music, but what I actually want to say is that this succession of chords, you should have a clear idea of what is really going on. So not just learn the notes, but really understand the harmonies. And I think this is really essential in singing with a harp, that you know what is going on in the harp, so that you don't have to think about each single note, but that you have a plan. And then when you have these notes in order because you want to sing to it, it sounds a bit random, but try to do something else while you play it. Like look around, even moving your head or something. So doing something independent of what you're playing, it helps a lot, even if it's just maybe thinking of something else during that time. It allows you to create some extra space, some extra attention. Because when you have all your attention on these, then where should the singing go? So this playing and looking around the room, or even checking if your neck is free of tension, or briefly looking out of the window, looking around the room, it can help to create this space that you then need to add the voice.
That's a very interesting approach because if you think about attention as a limited resource that we have, if we put all of it towards the harp, we're not going to have room to process all the other things that are happening.
Exactly, yeah.
So I
It
really
is.
like that we're practicing doing something else with the harp so that we can make room, if you will, for the singing to come into the picture. I really
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, of course, there has to be an amount of practicing before that, because you don't want to play the harp part without emotion or without being there. So part of me is still on the harp, of course, when I play it. But there is a part of me that then can add the singing. So it's kind of a practice so that this I can let go a little bit of this. I can say, okay, this is now, well, I wouldn't even call it autopilot now. That sounds too mechanic, but it's more like I taught you this now, fingers. You can leave you alone. So it's a kind of also a kind of a trust, you know. All hail to the days that married more praise than all of the rest of the year. You know, and then I mean, you still have to do a lot of stuff at the same time, but if this is taken care of and the voice is taken care of first, then you have good chances of putting the two together.
Thank you for sharing that tip. And out of all your harp and voice arrangement, can you recommend some easy ones for people who are just getting started and maybe an advanced piece that you would suggest to people who are more experienced to try?
The one I just played here, the To Drive the Cold Winter Away, is very approachable. It has the same chord structure over and over again. So once you have these 4 chords, and it's also in a slower tempo. So I would absolutely recommend give it a go. On my website, in my shop, you can also have a glimpse at the sheet music, so you can see, okay, this is what the music looks like, because sometimes we listen to something and think, oh my god, it's so complex, you know. Then you see it written down, think, okay, that's doable. Or even watch it in YouTube videos. So that would be To Drive the Cold Winter Away, definitely one to start with. Another one that would be doable because it's very repetitive is the First Noel. There is one pattern and it repeats itself, and it's just the left hand that does different bass notes in the verse. So these two would be easier ones. If you want to be more challenged, I would definitely recommend the Angel Gabriel. It's one of my favorites. It creates a very mystical atmosphere, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the right hand that, as I explained before, that adds to the singing melody.
Then gentle Mary meekly bowed her head. To me be as it pleaseth God, she said. My soul shall laud and magnify God's holy name. Most highly favoured Lady, Gloria.
I mean, of course, you could also play and invite a singer to join you. I see that a lot, that harpists order sheet music from the shop and then they write little notes. I can't wait to do this with my singing partner. So, or even an instrument. I mean, could it doesn't have to be a voice. It can also, these are also accompaniments for instruments as well.
That's a great idea. Now let's talk about the harp solo pieces, because you have some in there as well. What are some of the recommendation for an easy piece that someone can try on? And I believe some of them are also arranged for smaller harps, aren't they?
Yes, one that is people love a lot, and I also see it as covers on YouTube right now, is First Snow. It's an original piece, and it can also be played on a 26-string harp. It's divided into little parts, so you can tackle one at a time. A very slow introduction, and then a dance-like melody. Then there's an arpeggio part, so it evokes a lot of winter images.
difficult one for someone with a little bit more experience? Do you have any recommendations?
Try Il est né, le divin enfant. This is a French carol that I think it's adorably cute. It has a very cute melody, and I also arranged it as a duo piece, so you can play it with a harp friend. So it works solo or a duo. That would be intermediate, and advanced. Definitely Douce and merveille. This is also a French one. It's from Alsace, and even though it has a very slow tempo, it's challenging because of the lever changes and the harmonies, but it's really, really worth it. It's like instant holiday Christmas.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for your lovely suggestions. I hope we're all going to give harp and voice a try. I know that is something I want to try. I think First Noel might have to be the one that I'm going to go with. I actually knew about your harp and voice through I Saw Free Ships. It's one of my favorite Christmas carols, and it was on your album, so I have that with me. So I might have to take a look at that too now that I have some tips on how to approach it. Thank you so much, Nadia, for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll chat again soon.
Okay, thank you, Victoria.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.